Max Verstappen was supposed to struggle this year. New Ford power unit. First fully integrated Red Bull engine project. No proven race history. No margin for error. Instead, Bahrain just exposed something insane. A 15-lap race simulation with barely a tenth of a second variation. An engine running 12 degrees cooler than Mercedes and Ferrari. Roughly 15 kilometers per hour advantage at the end of the straight, without drag reduction. And here's the part that should really worry the grid. Max says the car isn't even his favorite to drive. It's heavier in slow corners. More demanding. Yet he still delivered race averages around 4/10 per lap faster than Ferrari over long runs. And he was lifting on the straights. Hiding pace. While others chased qualifying headlines. Red Bull weren't chasing Saturday glory. They were building Sunday dominance. By the end of this video, you'll understand why Verstappen's brutal pace and instant adaptation to the Ford-powered RB22 could redefine the entire championship battle, why rivals are quietly alarmed, and why Bahrain may have already revealed the real favorite. If you care about what's truly happening beneath the surface in Formula One, subscribe now. Because what testing just showed changes everything. Preseason testing is officially over. No more sandbags. No more experimental fuel loads. No more hiding behind, we're just collecting data. Bahrain gave us 3 full days of evidence. And the evidence points to something very uncomfortable for the rest of the grid. Let's start with the expectation. This was supposed to be Red Bull's transition year. A brand new Ford-branded power unit. A fully internal project. Fresh architecture. Fresh integration challenges. When teams introduce a new hybrid system, there is usually turbulence. Torque delivery feels sharp. Energy harvesting fluctuates. Thermal spikes force emergency lift and coast. Drivers need time to adjust braking points and throttle application. But from the very first shakedown laps in Barcelona, Verstappen reported something unusual. The blending between electric deployment and combustion felt smooth, natural, almost invisible. That is not normal for a brand new engine era. That is a foundation built correctly. Then Bahrain raised the pressure. Midweek, a hydraulic issue parked the RB22 in the garage for hours. The paddock immediately sensed vulnerability. Is this where it unravels? Is this the weak point? But once the car returned, the narrative flipped. Verstappen went out and delivered a 15-lap race simulation with barely a tenth of a second variation between laps. Barely a tenth. Over 15 laps. That level of stability this early in a season is rare. It tells you the platform is predictable. Predictability is everything in Formula One. Because predictable cars allow drivers to push without fear of sudden collapse. Now layer in the thermal numbers. The Ford power unit reportedly operated around 12 degrees cooler than its main rivals. 12 degrees is not marginal. It is strategic. Cooler engines require less aggressive cooling. Less cooling means tighter bodywork. Tighter bodywork reduces drag. Reduced drag improves straight-line efficiency. And here is where it becomes brutal. While other teams experienced visible clipping at the end of Bahrain's long straight, the RB22 kept deploying power. No fade. No sudden drop in electric boost. Estimates suggest roughly 15 kilometers per hour advantage at the end of the straight without drag reduction. That is not a setup tweak. That is systemic efficiency. But perhaps the most revealing detail is this. Verstappen was lifting on the straights during some of his quicker laps. He was managing pace. Holding margin. Not exposing the ceiling. And still, over long runs, his average pace was roughly 4/10 per lap quicker than Ferrari. 4/10 per lap over a full race compounds into dominance. And this is where adaptation becomes the real story. Max openly admitted the RB22 is not the easiest car in slow corners. It feels heavier. More deliberate. But instead of fighting it, he synchronized with it. He adjusted braking points. He managed energy deployment intelligently. He leaned into the car's strengths rather than forcing comfort. That is elite adaptation. Because the anti-dive suspension keeps the aerodynamic platform stable under braking. Stable platform means consistent downforce. Consistent downforce protects tire life. Minimal tire degradation creates strategic freedom. So while others chase peak performance on Saturday, Red Bull appear to have engineered Sunday superiority. Preseason testing is done. And what Bahrain revealed is not just speed. It is integration. Engine and chassis aligned. Thermal management under control. Energy deployment uninterrupted. Driver fully synchronized. That combination is rare. And when it appears this early, it usually signals something bigger than a strong start. It signals momentum. If this form carries into the first Grand Prix, qualifying might still look close. There may be headline surprises. But over race distance, over tire cycles, over evolving track conditions, the RB22's brutal consistency could become overwhelming. Because in modern Formula One, raw speed excites. But controlled, repeatable pace wins championships. And right now, Red Bull look dangerously repeatable. But here is where the conversation becomes even more serious. Because brutal consistency in testing is one thing. Carrying it into a full championship fight is something else entirely. And this is where the Ford RB22 might be even more dangerous than it looks. When a team exits preseason without visible thermal stress, it changes the development curve. Most teams leave testing with a list of urgent corrections, cooling adjustments, energy deployment refinements, correlation issues between simulator and track. Red Bull do not appear to be firefighting. They appear to be refining. That difference matters. If your engine runs approximately 12 degrees cooler than your closest rivals, you are not starting on the edge. You are starting with margin. Margin allows aggression. Margin allows tighter packaging updates. Margin allows aerodynamic risks. And aerodynamic risks are what create performance leaps mid-season. Now think about Verstappen's adaptation again. He admitted the RB22 is not perfect in slow corners. It feels heavier, less agile. But he did not complain about instability. He did not mention unpredictability. He spoke about control. Control under braking. Control under throttle. Control over tire degradation. That means the weaknesses are manageable. And manageable weaknesses are easier to develop around than hidden fragility. There is also a psychological dimension unfolding here. When rivals see a team introduce a new power unit project and immediately deliver stable long-run pace, doubt creeps in. Because if this is the baseline, what happens when upgrades arrive? If the car is already running 0.4 faster per lap over long stints, and the driver is still lifting on straights, then the ceiling remains concealed. That uncertainty forces competitors into reactive development. Push harder. Experiment more aggressively. Sometimes sacrifice reliability for gains. Red Bull, on the other hand, can move methodically. And methodical progress is often more sustainable than explosive early peaks. Let's not ignore the race simulation itself. 15 laps with almost no variation is not just about speed. It is about degradation control. When tire performance drops predictably and slowly, strategy opens up. You can extend stints. You can undercut confidently. You can defend without overheating the rear axle. That flexibility compounds across a championship. And when the anti-dive suspension keeps the aerodynamic platform stable, it reinforces everything else. Stable aero means stable energy harvesting. Stable energy harvesting means consistent deployment. Consistent deployment means clean overtakes. Clean overtakes reduce tire stress. It is a chain reaction of efficiency. Preseason testing has ended. There are no more unknowns from Bahrain. The data has circulated. The long-run charts have been studied. And the insane truth revealed is not simply that Verstappen was fast. It is that he looked relaxed while being fast. There was no visible strain. No wrestling with deployment. No frantic corrections. Just calculated rhythm. That rhythm is what defines dominance. Because dominance rarely begins with fireworks. It begins with control. And right now, Red Bull look in control of their engine. In control of their thermal management. In control of their tire life. And most importantly, Verstappen looks in control of the RB22. If that alignment holds into the first Grand Prix, the championship narrative may shift quickly. Qualifying sessions might produce headlines. But Sundays are long. And long races reward systems that do not fade. Bahrain may have been only a test. But the pattern was clear. Brutal pace. Efficient engineering. Instant driver adaptation. And a car that appears to have headroom left. That combination is not just competitive. It is threatening. And if the rest of the grid sensed it too, they will know one thing. The season may not begin with chaos. It may begin with Red Bull dictating terms once again. And here is the final layer that makes this even more significant. Because what we witnessed in Bahrain was not just speed, not just consistency, not just thermal efficiency. It was alignment. Alignment between power unit and chassis. Alignment between engineering philosophy and execution. Alignment between driver instinct and mechanical response. That kind of alignment does not happen by accident. It happens when a project is internally coherent. The Ford power unit was supposed to be the gamble. New branding. New structure. New responsibility. Instead, it looks like the stabilizing force of the entire package. Running cooler. Deploying cleanly. Avoiding clipping at the end of long straights. That thermal margin is not simply about reliability. It is about freedom. Freedom to tighten the car further. Freedom to push aerodynamic development without fear of overheating. freedom to experiment with aggressive floor updates early in the season. And that freedom compounds over time. Because when you are not fixing problems, you are building advantage. Now think about Verstappen's role in all of this. He did not just drive fast laps. He adapted his driving style to the strengths of the RB22 almost instantly. He accepted that the car feels heavier in slow corners. He adjusted braking inputs to maximize the anti-dive stability. He managed energy deployment intelligently rather than chasing raw aggression. That is maturity at championship level. Many drivers try to force a car into their preferred balance. Max bends his technique to match the machine. That synchronization creates rhythm. And rhythm creates inevitability. During long runs in Bahrain, there was no sign of panic in the data. No late stint drop-off. No frantic lift and coast. Just controlled, repeatable lap times. That tells you something fundamental. The RB22 is not operating on the edge. It is operating within margin. And margin is terrifying for rivals. Because if this is the baseline, there is room to push further. Room to unlock more performance without destabilizing the core platform. The rest of the grid now faces a difficult equation. If they push aggressively to match race pace, they risk overheating or clipping. If they stay conservative, they concede ground. Red Bull, meanwhile, can develop calmly, incrementally, confidently. Preseason testing is over. There are no more rehearsal laps. No more quiet data gathering. The stopwatch has already revealed enough. Brutal race pace, thermal superiority, uninterrupted deployment, and a driver completely synchronized with the package. The insane truth after Bahrain is not that Red Bull looked quick. It is that they looked sustainable. Sustainable speed is far more dangerous than explosive speed. Explosive speed wins headlines. Sustainable speed wins titles. If the opening race confirms what testing suggested, the championship fight may not revolve around who is fastest on one lap. It will revolve around who can sustain performance over distance. And right now, Verstappen and the Ford-powered RB22 look like they have mastered exactly that. The season is about to begin. But Bahrain may have already told us something critical. Red Bull did not just adapt to a new era. They may have optimized it from day one.